Hey, what's going on, everyone? So wanted to give a quick update on the GexBot indicator that we built for ATAS X. It also works on ATAS, but GexBot does have an official integration with ATAS, and so I built for ATAS X specifically since it's not supported yet from GexBot. And if you have the original one, it'll basically look like this, where you'll have the levels, and it gives you a little info box, and it just plots like the 0 levels, and you'll have the major levels from the QQQ and the NQ on one chart for NQ. And then for ES, you would have it for SPY and for ES on one chart. And so that was basically the indicator. There was also an info box here that kind of showed where the 0 Gex level was, the volume, the open interest for Gex, and if they're positive or negative. And it kind of gave you both for the NQ and DX and the QQQ. And it also gave you a view of the delta bias, right? And so if calls or puts were favored depending on the culmination of volume at each strike price. And so they would basically give you a skew of like, are people spending more or had traded more for calls or puts? And so that was essentially the indicator. And what we did was we basically looked at the API a bit more and actually pulled out even more information and data from the Classic API to get it as close to the web app as possible. And so I'll walk through that. But this is what the current one looks like. So I'll show a screenshot of the indicator, and then I'll kind of walk through it live. But this was a screenshot that I took yesterday. And so the changes that we made were we've added the ladders. And so this ladder is basically the ladder that you would see for the Gex volume and open interest within the web app. And so on my setup, I actually have volume and open interest kind of showing on the same line here. And so I kind of dim the open interest, and I kind of increase the intensity of the colors for the volume. And so for me, I know how to read this, but you can separate those in the indicator, so I can kind of show that. And then we also included the kind of history dots. And so you'll notice, GexBot sometimes posts on their X account the kind of 0 gamma dot history for SPX. And so you'll see this is looking at NQ, but you can kind of see the dots here where it's all like where 0 gamma was kind of bouncing between. And so now you have that, and that'll give you a sense of like what areas of price would you expect price to basically start just kind of being undecided, right? And so it kind of gives you that history. Also, you see these lines here. So these are the major levels history as well. So you can kind of see that tracked, which is pretty cool. Other thing is we're also looking at the maximum change for Gex. And so it'll basically plot like 1 minute ago, 5 minutes ago, and now, like what levels have had the biggest change in Gex, right? And so you can kind of see that, and it'll just give you an idea of, what levels to kind of pay attention to. And then also there's this info box here, which basically shows for NQ and ES, it'll show you, your NQ, NDX, and then QQQ side by side. So you can see, okay, the regime, are we positive or negative? So this one we're negative. Looking at volume and open interest, if they're agreeing or if they're diverging. And then so that'll give you an idea of how strong this regime is. It also has a little hint of what you would expect dealers to do once price gets to certain levels. And so it gives you like a little hint here. So these are kind of like hard-coded deterministic rules, based on what price is doing, what type of level, things like that. Also, there's a row for which Gex level is the closest to price. And so it tells you, for NQ, like your major one put level is about 76 points away. And then for the major put level for QQQ, you're about 22 points away. So that's coming. And then basically taking that concept of summing the volume of the calls and puts for the given expiry that you're looking at. It basically gives you like a little sparkle line here, which tells you, are puts more favored or calls more favored, things like that. And so it's a cool little info thing, just gives you at a glance like what type of, it gives you an idea of the regime and what you would expect dealers to start doing at certain levels. I think it gets pretty close to the web app. I've been trading with it for a couple days. I do like it a lot. The only downside is the history dots, they only persist as long as you're running the indicator in a session. So we're not able to record the history for multiple days or anything. And so if you happen to turn off your ATAS or anything like that, then you would kind of lose the history dots, and then they would kind of repopulate from when you pick it back up. But the ladders will show all the time. It's just the history dots are kind of, you have to let your indicator run. And another thing I forgot to mention is we have the little dots that you see in the GexBot web app, where they have like where the changes were within the last 5 minutes, 1 minute, and now. And so you can kind of see the blue dots of like where everything was before and all that. So you can kind of monitor those changes as well. What this looks like in ATAS. So this is today. So I actually had to restart my ATAS, and so you can kind of see the history dots are starting to populate here again. And so I didn't, I kind of lost all my history because I restarted. And you can kind of see the info box there. You see a lot of positive Gex happening here. This call wall I think has moved up a lot as we've had that Trump tweet, and everybody is now bullish, and so now they're like piling it up here. But you basically kind of see that's what it is. Indicator here, and let me pull up NQ and ES. You would have the option to have both the index and the ETF, and so you can have that here, so you can disable or enable that. For your API key, you will need to have your GexBot custom API key. So you'll need a classic subscription, and when you get your API key, get the custom one. Don't get the ATAS one. So you would need that. You can, do a bunch of things like fill in zones and things like that. You can tint the chart if you want to tint it based on the regime. If you're in a positive or negative Gex, you have that option. You can also look at confluences and levels. So if I do this, and let's see if I can increase this really quick. So you can kind of see where levels between the two sources are kind of close to each other. So that gives you a pretty interesting read there. The max change, so you can shut that one on and off if you don't want to see the max change. So there you go. Labels, so we can show the labels, you can move them around. I know that was feedback with the last indicator where the labels were in the middle of the line, so it was hard to read. And so we've adjusted that, put them on top of the line so it's easier. The state block, so you can hide it if you don't like it. You can put it back. It's configurable as far as coloring, how big it is, things like that. There's some thresholds here as well for what is considered call or put skew and things like that. So you can tweak that to your liking. And then you can do alerts if you're into that. You can show the Gex ladder. So here's one thing I did want to call out with the Gex ladder. So A, and then there's a source B. So the B source is going to be the open interest. So you can kind of put this, as you can see now the ladder is moving, right? So this would be like your open interest. And so you can have that, somewhere else if you wanted to. You could flip it, you can change the alignment so they're both left or right. For me, I like to have them just in line, but you can kind of switch that if you want. There's also the history dots here. So if you want to see the 0 gamma dots, you can turn that on or off. And then the session trail as well, so you can kind of see that. And that's pretty much it. And then you see the major levels as well. So this will plot the 0 gamma for both NDX and QQQ. And so you'll kind of see those getting plotted. If you didn't want to do that, then you would have to disable one of them. Or that what comes with this DLL is you get one for NQ that has the NDX index and ETF. But then if you, let's just say you only want to see NQ, then you can use the classic single instrument. So this will work on, any instrument that GexBot supports, and you just put the single instrument there. So this will be on NQ all the way to the stocks that they support as well. Again, we're trying to get pretty close to the GexBot UI. So if we go in, and so you'll see this, the whole ladder situation. You'll see the ladder, the major levels, and in this line is like the history trail. So you see these as dots. But basically we're trying to bring all this into ATAS. The UI for the GexBot is pretty cool. I just find it a little bit hard to navigate and scale and things, but it's good to look at for reference and all. Having everything on one chart is ideal, and so this is why I built this one. Awesome. Well, hopefully that was helpful. We'll be publishing this and sending this out. We're going to update the page, and you'll be able to download it directly from the page. But hopefully you find it useful. Give me feedback. I'm happy to make adjustments as needed. I also plan to upgrade to the state and the Orderflow subscriptions for GexBot and build separate indicators, taking in all that data. And so that's something I'll be doing over the next coming weeks, probably. Cool. Well, thanks for hanging out. Good luck and don't get caught.